So you're a business owner that knows you should be putting out social media content, podcast, YouTube, whatever it is, organic content, but you're not entirely sure how to make the connection between your customers and you and what you're putting out and how to ultimately deliver value to them. Well, on this episode today, I'm going to be talking to you how to make that happen in the most simplified way that you could possibly imagine, but it is going to be highly effective. So the first step of this entire process is going to be listening to your customers. Now, in my definition, the definition of content marketing, and you can loop this in content marketing into social media, podcasting, YouTube, book writing, whatever it is that you have from a content perspective, blogs, email lists, whatever it is, we're going to lump that into the definition of content marketing. But my definition of content marketing is answering questions that your target demographic have about you, your industry, and what it is that you do. If you can literally take that statement, that will define your entire content strategy as a whole, no matter what you do. Now, for me, I service real estate investors. I have a podcast called the REI Marketing Weekly. The reason why I call it the REI Marketing Weekly is because I'm not getting investors on my show to talk about their businesses and how they hire and how they, run their operations and stuff like that. The only thing I have interest in is talking about their marketing, because I'm trying to get myself in front of a demographic that is much more interested about learning marketing, because those are the services that I offer to real estate investors. So getting myself in front of people, and I get guests on the show that talk about running their businesses. And so I strategically get guests on the show that I could potentially work with, because I'm trapping them on an hour call, interviewing them, but also chit-chatting before and after. And, I've actually brought in clients doing it that way, but I'm also tapping into their audiences as well. That being said, that's the relevancy, that's the bridge that I've been able to create. So I've created content that is answering questions that my target demographic have about the industry, which is where I have the podcast, about myself and what it is that I do. This is the type of content that you're listening to right now. This is who I am, and then this type of stuff that I do. I'm only talking about the things I'm an expert in, and the type of things that I offer as a service provider or or a product. So that's a really important kind of connection point that a lot of business owners don't make. They put content out, they put, dancing TikTok videos out, but they're, buying houses, and there's not really a connection point. Sure, it gets eyeballs. Sure, it's funny. It's interesting. However, is it really making a connection, a deep connection, and curating your target demographic? I would argue no. Now, there's a lot of people that could really make a stretch and say like, yeah, but it's getting eyeballs. I'm getting in front of the right people, and it just takes one person to see. That's true. However, I would rather put myself in a place where I'm very much delivering value to a very small pool of people that could potentially work with me and spend money with me, as opposed to a massive pool of people where there's very few and maybe even no people in that group of people that would have interest in working with me and spending money with me. It's a very important kind of deviation that there's in the marketing world. There's a big argument about it. Like, some people believe in that, some people don't believe in that. But that's a really important thing, is to make sure you make that connection point with people. And you just do that through the topics that you really craft for your content, whether it is you are starting a podcast, a YouTube channel, or putting out social media content. Make sure that you're answering questions that your target demographic have about what it is that you do. If you literally know your business well enough, you probably talked to customers, you've talked to potential leads that maybe have talked to you and maybe they didn't work with you, or maybe they're talking about working with you. What questions do they have? Well, that's the type of content that you're going to create relevancy to your demographic. And that's a very important, easy method to kind of make this bridge all work together. The other thing is, of course, intentionality. You want to make sure that you're not just turning on the camera and just pitching and selling the entire time. If you do that, you will lose eyeballs, you will lose interest, it will not work for you. This is where, again, I've talked about this in previous episodes, where the deviation between advertising, like paid advertising, Facebook ads, PPC campaigns, and whatever it is else that you spend money on to run your marketing, that's kind of where that deviates between organic social. Now, on this video, we're talking specifically organic content. We're not talking about paid traffic. That's a whole different ballgame. If we're talking about organic content, the focus needs to be informational, entertaining, or educational. And all of that's driven around value in some way, shape, or form. If you deviate from that, now I do have kind of like a rule here where I've talked about this before, where you have a 90-10 rule. So 90% of your content should be value-based, and then you can use another 5 to 10% to give a call to action. You want to make sure you do plug that in, especially if you're a business owner and you're trying to get business from the content. People need to know how they can work with you or if they're the right person to work with you. So you tell them that through your call to action. So if I have a hour-long video, 50 minutes of that is going to be value, and then probably not even 10 minutes, maybe like 2 to 3 minutes of that might be a call to action of me, putting a mid-roll ad in the middle of the video, talking about my services or whatever it is that I do. That's an important thing to understand, because if you give too much salesiness or too much pitching, then that will deter people, and it turns people off. It's the whole car salesman thing. When you walk in, you're looking for a car and you walk on the lot and you see that guy come out and you're like, damn it. It's that kind of reaction that you don't want from people that you've hooked them. Like, they're interested in your content, and then you can make them run away, get back in their car and drive off to the next lot in order to, not be bugged by you. People will literally go out of their way to not be sold to. So that's an important understanding when it comes to the world of marketing and sales. The last piece of this that I'll kind of give you is authenticity. I know that there's a lot of people out there that really, are very self-conscious about themselves. They get on video and they want it to be perfect. They want it to be flawless. They don't want any ums or ahs or any stammers and stutters and things like that. They're putting makeup on and stuff like that. Like, that is something that trips a lot of people up, and frankly is a roadblock for a lot of people to not put content out in the first place. And I'm just going to sit here and encourage you. Like, any of your favorite influencers, I talk about this a lot, but pick your favorite influencer. Is it Gary Vaynerchuk, Alex Hormozi? It doesn't matter who it is. Go back to their channel. I'm going to actually do this as an action item for you. Go to their channels and go back as far as you can go to their very first video they put out. I don't care if it was 10 years ago. I don't care if it was 2 years ago. I guarantee you it sucked, and it was nowhere near as good as what they are now. And the reason for that is because they just got started. They knew it was going to suck at first, but it was going to get better. It was going to get better every single time they recorded a video. And at some point, they were just speaking their truth, and everything else didn't matter. Didn't matter. You want to be presentable, but it really didn't matter if they had a pimple on their cheek or if, they were having a bad hair day. They put there's so many things that you can use as an excuse to not record video. And I do know that one of the big ones is that people are nervous to be on video because they've never been on video before. But it's just like with anything else. At one point in your life, you never walked before. At one point in your life, you never talked before. But then you just tried it out that one time and you sucked at it after you got up and you walked. You took a couple steps and then you fell. And then you talked and said some words and they didn't make sense, and it was terrible grammar. But you learned over time how to speak correctly. You learned over time how to walk, how to run, how to sprint. That's how anything works. You start with number one, and then you take the next step after that, and the next step after that, and the next step after that, and you get better over time. So turn the camera on, start talking. And, the principles of just talking about the things that you do, that can create a lot of authenticity when it comes to the type of content you put out. Like, for me, I wouldn't consider myself a, very funny person. So I'm not turning on the camera, trying to crack jokes and trying to, say things that are going to make you laugh at a potential reach of me embarrassing myself and looking like an idiot. That's just not me. So I have a certain way that I deliver content to you as my audience, and I'm going to lean into that. I have strengths and I also have weaknesses. I can turn on a camera right now and just rip out a whole video that's going to be 30 minutes long without even thinking, without even having to look at notes or anything like that. That's a superpower, in my opinion. However, I'm not the most polished speaker. I'm not funny. There's so many things that I am not, but I'm focusing on the things that I am. And that's what you really have to get over. And there are some weaknesses that, I had to get over at first. I said and all a lot. I know I say it now, but I used to say it a lot. Go back to my early videos, and it was horrible. And we didn't edit any of it out because I wanted to make sure it stayed authentic. But that's the important thing, is if you can't buy into your own self and be okay with your own self, how do you expect your customers to buy into you? Think about that. That's a really important revelation that I had a mentor tell me one time when I was starting to create video content. And I pass that along to every single one of my customers, every single person that I ever talk to that needs help with creating content. I give them that little statement, and it's always you're right. And I know I'm right, because this is life. This is the way it works. So just turn the camera on, be authentic, and just go. You're going to screw up. This is why post-production video editing exists, is because you can have a video editor clip out any of your mistakes, any errors. Like if you say something that you weren't supposed to say, or you mess it up, or you set a number and it was the wrong number, you can always stop it and then look it up, say the right thing, and then have your editor cut that out, mash it together, and it's fine. Like, it's called a jump cut. And every influencer uses it, right? So you really need to be focused on your being authentic, leaning into that, and don't worry about anything else. If it helps you to not go back and watch your videos, I don't go back and watch my videos. I just allow my editor to do their thing, and that's it. I don't go back and watch them. And I know what I said, and I'm okay with it. That took a little bit of practice, but if that's what you have to do in order to not be self-conscious about yourself and continue to create content, that authenticity will create an extreme amount of relevance to your demographic. And it just comes across, because then when they meet you on the phone or over a Zoom call, they're like, this was the same guy that I watched a social media video about. So this was the same guy that I heard his podcast and he sounded authentic. And I thought, had a good connection with this person. And then now I have a Zoom call with him and he's the exact same person as he was on the interview. That's where the true connection is going to come with your customers. So hopefully that helps, guys. If it did, make sure you leave a comment below and let me know. Also subscribe and share this around with your friends. And I appreciate you guys spending some time with me today. And I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.